Hello, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, people of all orientations and sexualities and identities. Welcome back to another Doctor Who review. And at this picture, you may be very confused. Well, just to let you know, this is a picture taken from the British Film Institute this passing Saturday, which I was lucky enough to go and watch The Celestial Toymaker, a lost 1966 story, which we will be reviewing on this channel at some point, just not at the present due to it not being accessible to the variety of people. And I'm telling you, I so look forward to sharing that review with you guys. But I will say the story will most probably divide the community because everyone has their own opinions on it. But I hope that you will see what I saw and enjoy. Now, straight into the video. We have The Key to Time with a variety of stories. So, let's go down the list. We have The Ribos Operation, Pirate Planet, Stones of Blood, Android of Tara, Power of Kroll, and Armageddon Factor. So, our first story, The Ribos Operation. Let's take you back a little bit. The Doctor has just left Leela and K9 on the planet Gallifrey, and has now got K9 Mark II travelling alongside him on the TARDIS. The Doctor and K9 have had a wild journey so far, so the Doctor decides to promise K9 a lovely, exclusive holiday for the pair of them. But all of a sudden, a bright light begins to shine through the TARDIS doors, and a beckoning noise begins to play. The doors thrust themselves open, and the Doctor walks through. As he goes to the other side, he finds himself confronted by the White Guardian, a keeper of time and space. Time, more specifically, keeping the balance and the structure of all things intact. The Doctor asks why he has been summoned, and the White Guardian says that the key to time is in danger and the fragments must be brought together and returned to him in order to keep balance in the universe as a whole. The Doctor complies, but to go on this task, he must be assisted by a companion, which the Doctor really doesn't want to. He's already got K9 as far as he's concerned. He doesn't believe he needs a companion. Now, let me introduce you to Fred. Yes, Fred. Oh, sorry. Whoops. Sorry, did I say Fred? I mean Romana. Romana Badalunda. What? Sorry. I think I'm gonna stick with Fred. The Doctor and Fred find themselves in a bit of a predicament. The Doctor says that Fred is inexperienced and too young, and Fred believes that the Doctor has become naive in their old age. The pair are then sent off to the planet Ribos to investigate the weird goings on and hopefully to discover a piece to the key to time. As the story progresses, we learn that we have a vengeful king who is buying a planet in hopes that he can overthrow his brother from the monarchy in order to restore order using a armada of ships, even though it technically goes against galactic law. And on the other hand, we have our classic we have our classic Del Boy and Rodney Trotter duo. We have the fantastic, the phenomenal Swindler, and his good old Irish mate from up the hill whose father died in a mountain crash. Yes, we have a Cornishman and his sidekick pretending to have some money to swindle a planet to an intergalactic king in order to make a quick profit. The pair have made a suggestion that they can make a transaction, but first they need money up front. So they take the money up front and they stash it in the vault, only for later on to climb into the vault and snatch it from under the guard's hands. This makes the Doctor and Fred, Romana, laugh as they watch the dastardly pair go back and forth in hopes of trying to oversee the king. But this backfires for the two swindlers, as the king has a seer and she sees all. She manages to cotton on to the two swindlers and they talk about Jaffrite. Jaffrite is secretly a piece of the key to time. But at this point in time, neither the swindlers or the Doctor or anyone realizes how truthfully powerful the stone kept inside of the glass cabinet is. The pair go back and forth, and the Doctor manages to swindle the Jaffrite back off of the two swindlers, who are trying to make a quick profit. The Doctor switches them with a brick, and they laugh on good tidings in part. Next up on our list, do you want to live forever? Do you want to learn how to fly? Well, welcome to a story which gives you two things in one. One side is a story about crippling terrors. The next part is about immortality. So, without further ado, let's get right into the pirate planet. The Doctor and Romana land on a mysterious planet where all across the floor seems to be all sorts of pearls, gems, diamonds, and stones. The Doctor, confused, picks up many of the stones and begins to ask why no one cares about them. One of the locals points out to the Doctor and Romana that the planet has been mined and that the resources are so easy to get hold of that they become invaluable. In a way, it's quite a very good point to our real world where most things, cash is online now. So coins and paper have slowly become pointless. And that's exactly what's happened to them on this planet, where they've got so many minerals that it really isn't too important to them. But on the other hand, this is when things become interesting. We learn that there's an old queen slowly decaying in the top of the tower, and that everybody that becomes a seer is being hunted down by a ruthless dictator of the society. But as a twist of fate in the story, we soon learn that the cyborg part human, who is the dictator of the town, isn't in control at all, but merely a puppet on a string for a higher power. The queen, who is decaying and rotting away in the top of the tower, has been slowly manipulating her way around the system, using a younger incarnation of herself through a cloned body that she has made. Her hope is to live forever and to outlive the body that is dying and decaying in the other room. She hopes to use the Doctor's mind in order to possess this power, to outlive and to live forever. And as the Doctor points out to her, it doesn't matter how many calculations she chooses, that she can't do it. It's impossible. Nobody has the power to outlive mortality. And that's what's so great about this story, is they is a real pushing out in the boat sentiment to people who believe that they can unwind the cogs of mortality and reverse time. Next up, we have the Stones of Blood, an interesting and intricate story that takes us back to modern day Earth, but also amongst the stars. So without further ado, let's tell you the rough story of the Stones of Blood. The Doctor and Romana land on Earth and find themselves in a stone circle. They come across two pair of archaeologists who are scanning the site for historical evidence, when all of a sudden one of them remarks to the pair that they shouldn't go to the circle around the night, as that is the time that a cult who worships a demon practices blood sacrifices. As the story progresses, Romana gets caught up in a mess between the cult, and soon begins to learn that one of the characters that she has met isn't quite what she seems. This villainous villain reveals themselves to be a prisoner of a ship in a sector between the stones and between time itself. They've used the village as a gateway to escape, but in doing so, they need a scapegoat to truly release themselves from the prison within. And so, luring the Doctor and Romana to the ship, this gives them the greatest incentive to drop them in their mess, hoping that the guards and the antibodies, as you might want to call them, for the ship, would prosecute the invaders and escapees into being the latest to be locked up. After being approached by the orbs inside of the ship, the Doctor finds himself in a court case with his judge, jury, and executioner. The judges, caught in an endless pattern of wanting to execute the Doctor for crimes committed on the ship, constantly find themselves in a paradox, which the Doctor takes full advantage of and keeps them going in a loop long enough for himself and Romana to escape, leaving the ship between the void that it's trapped in, left in an endless depth of space, broken, and the prison of the escaped criminal once and for all. Next up, we have the Androids of Tara, an interesting story of conspiracy, travesty, murder, and assassination. So without further ado, let's get straight into it. A prince without a kingdom, lost and hopeless to the bone, as he finds himself replaced by androids. The androids who have taken over have left him defenseless, and so he finds that his lover is lost and locked within a tower. For them to be united again, he must overrule the deadly force who has struck him from his kingdom, and hope that he can restore himself to the crown. But in doing so, he must use the one thing used against him to his advantage: the androids. As the story progresses, we find ourselves going back and forth from the kingdom to the gardens to the kingdom to a little hut in the middle of the forest. And as the story keeps on going, we learn that the princess has been locked beneath the dungeon, unaware of what is going on. All she knows is that her lover has been kicked out of the kingdom and been replaced. With a little bit of tampering, the Android King is shut down, and the original king is restored to his kingdom. And the mad tyrant, who you might as well say is a bit of the Sheriff of Nottingham in this story, is brought to their knees. Next up, we have the power of Kroll. This story is a testament to how far people would go for their gods. A story about cruelty, manipulation, and travesty, and also about the greed of power for a planet. The power of Kroll is quite a basic story. There's a creature in the bay in the swamp that the local Aborigines pray to, and there is a mining operation on a rig that is digging beneath the surface of the swamp for minerals. But as they do so, the creature has got its talons into the mining operation and is beginning to destroy it piece by piece to reclaim its homeland. Meanwhile, a gun smuggler who is a part of the expedition has been sourcing the local Aborigines with weapons in hopes to drive the people on the planet off and reclaim the planet for themselves. But this backfires on the smuggler because although he was paid to come and bring arms to the locals turn against him when they believe that the Doctor and them are in league with the original people who have come to mine the resources. As the story progresses, they come to a common ground and leave the locals and their monster, who they believe to be their god, to its own devices, telling them to stop and shut down the program and leave the planet in peace. And last, but certainly not least, the Armageddon Factor. A deadly story about betrayal, war, what is it good for, and how far people will truly go to win at all costs. In the beginning of the Armageddon Factor, we are introduced to a scout leader / captain who keeps fighting an enemy he cannot see. The enemy seemed to manage to destroy his ships and destroy his barracks, but standing on his last legs, he will fight to the last man standing, as he believes it is the only way that a war can end. He believes the ends justifies the means, regardless who is hurt or how bad the casualty numbers climb. He believes it's the only way to save his people, even if it ensures destroying them at the same time. Meanwhile, on the other foot, we have a princess. The princess is trying to help her people to restore herself and them to their former glory of life. A life without tragedy, without pain, and a life worth living. Throughout the story, she ends up in a lot of arguments in order to try and get her own way. She tries to find ways around protocols in order to go to the sick bay and see her people, as she believes in wartime it is best that she is there for her people than not there at all. As the story progresses, we later learn that the queen / princess is actually the key to Time's last fragment, and that her power if used in the wrong hands, could destroy the universe itself. So, the Doctor and Romana are in a chase trying to catch the princess before the Dark Guardian's assistant managed to get hold of her and return the whole key to time to his hand and will to shape the universe. This plan almost goes absolutely upside down as the Dark Guardian's forces are moving in, and there is very little time left for the Doctor and Romana to collect all the pieces of the key to time. Although the odds aren't exactly in their favour, the Doctor and Romana manage to overcome this task and challenge and begin to assemble each piece of the key to time, then returning it to the White Guardian. So, the key to time. Time to give it a full review. There were some ups and some downs. Some stories were stronger than others, but you get that in all series. Each story had its own purpose and own backstory to where it was going and what it was telling. And I think that's what's brilliant about it, is how separately it stood apart. And for that reason, I am going to give The Key to Time a solid 9 out of 10. Brilliant storytelling, fabulous. Romana and the Doctor have such an interesting dynamic. It's so good to see them butt heads, as most of the companions in the past have tended to follow along with the Doctor. It was nice to have someone constantly questioning them on their knowledge and how they do things and why they do things. So for that reason, yes, it is a 9 out of 10. Hope you've enjoyed this video, and I look forward to seeing you in the next Doctor Who review. Stay beautiful, stay wonderful, and stay amazing, you beautiful people.